Hey YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. This is Winter in July NASA Midsouth's event at Barber Motorsports Park. This is both my first time at this track and first time in this car, the car being a 99 1.8 liter Spec Miata, my previous car being a 90 1.6 liter Spec Miata. So this weekend was all about me figuring out how to drive the car and kind of the differences between this car and the previous car. Which there are quite a few. More horsepower, more torque in this car, but it's also heavier. I'm used to being able to throw the 90 around quite a bit and, trail brake and do all sorts of weird things and slide the car through turns. As you see later on in the video, 99s don't really like that a whole lot. So this session is qualifying, my third session on track. I've got about 15 laps in at this point. The way the weekend goes, you'll have one qualifying session that'll set the grid for race 1 on Saturday. Then the ending result of race 1 will set the grid for race 2 on Sunday, and then the ending race 3. So I'm really still trying to figure out the track at this point. What's the optimal line? Where are my braking points? Where should I be rolling throttle? That sort of thing. So while I do set a pretty decent time during this session, I'm still just trying to figure it all out. Trying to knock a couple tenths off here and there, and so this is my fastest lap for the session. Got to just stab the brake and roll as much throttle through turn 1 here. You want to go wide and kind of pick your braking point. Keep wide through here, and you want to apex on the back side of this curbing here. You hear that grinding noise, that's actually the tire skipping over the track, and I found if you take a wider line through there, the car just likes it a lot more, and you carry a little bit more speed. Probably saved me a tenth or two through there. Brake as deep as you can here. The track kind of falls away. I've heard people say you can brake further than the 1. Deepest I was able to brake was about 1 1/4, but usually more around 1 1/2. Sooner you're back to throttle, the more speed you can roll down this straight. Another stab of the brakes. I probably over brake here a little bit too much. Use the curbing on the left hand to slow the car down, and then crank the wheel and roll throttle to again try to get as much speed going down the straight. You kind of just treat this all like one straight. You don't lift for the 10-11 chicane here. You also probably shouldn't use the curbing there at all. It doesn't unsettle the car or anything, but it does slow it down. Just another stab of the brake, and I'm braking here in the compression zone going up the hill. You really don't need to, and you see that kind of unsettles the car a little bit. It gets a little squirrely. Just breathe the throttle through here. Again, pick your braking point. Take a wide line. That way you can get as wide a line through for the last corner here as possible. And you want to be flat through there. You'll feel like you'll need to breathe, but you won't need to. So my time ends up being a 1:49.4, which is good for 5th, which is my best qualifying position, I think, ever in Spec Miata. Here's the start of the race, and what I've had the most success with is to not be out of throttle when the green flag drops. So you have to do that by being partially in throttle and dragging the brake so you're not running over the person in front of you. And there's the green, which is a little bit early. It caught me a little bit off guard. So you see the orange car gaps us a little bit, but the guy in the the white and blue car, white and red car beside me, got surprised by it as well. So we're side by side for a couple corners here, and that's just going to further allow the front 3 to just gap us a little bit. That's fine. I'm content to go side by side here and just checking up on his position to see about where he's going to be as we enter this brake zone. I'm not trying to go deep here because I know as hard as I can brake is how hard he can brake. And car slides a little, he gives me a bump, I give him the thumbs up saying, you know, that's okay. I didn't unsettle the car, I wasn't malicious or anything. Spec Miatas just bump each other all the time, really. So by looking at the timesheet for qualifying, this white and red and blue car was about half a second faster in qualifying than I was. So I know that he's probably faster than I am, so I'm trying everything I can to try and keep him behind me. Like you see here, he just walks up to me, gives me another good shove. I don't know through here if he makes up a little bit of time, and then I make some time up on this last corner here, but I'm kind of feeling it a little bit. I want to make sure that I can keep him behind me. So I'm already thinking I'm going to brake a little bit deeper into one than I would and see how that works out for me. And surprise, it doesn't. I go both feet in, and it wasn't until after the race was actually over I realized how close a call that was, those two cars behind me. There's another video that I posted on my channel, and I'll link it in the description here if you want to see just how close that was. We're going to fast forward a bit. So now I'm in full recovery drive mode. It's all about learning the track and hopefully putting a couple good passes on some other cars. So getting, really some practice at racecraft. So I think this red car in front of me, it's a first generation NA, but I think it's a 1.6 because you can see I'm walking the car on the straight a little bit, so that means I've probably got a power advantage on him. That doesn't matter when you shift second to fifth though. It's a only corner of the track that requires second gear, but in a 1.6 car, you're second gear a lot at the tracks that I go to, and that's still a shift that I had problem with in that car. So glad to know that I'm still going to have that problem in this car. Again, probably taking too much curb there, but you see me reel this car in front of me in. I'm already thinking, should I go side by side into this left-hander? And I don't really want to attempt that. There's enough track there, but it's so early in the weekend that I'm okay not doing it. And of course, thinking that, I end up going off the track, which is fine. I don't lose touch with this guy because he ends up braking through here. So now I'm already thinking I'm probably going to try to get him into turn one if I can get a good run on him, which it seems like I do, and I can't tell if that's him hitting the brakes past the apex of the corner there, but it definitely gives me enough momentum to easily make the pass in turn one. You see me taking my hand off the wheel there. Racer friend of mine told me a couple years ago that every straightaway, make sure to flex your hands. One weekend when I went to Daytona and came back, I realized my hands were super sore. It's because I was death gripping the wheel. So every straightaway, I try to flex my hands or take my hands off the wheel. So I already know that I'm too far away from this blue car to try to get him into the hairpin. So I'm thinking maybe it'll happen at the museum corner through that downhill section. This time I get that shift done correctly. Wasn't close enough to be able to try that, but he goes a little bit wide here, so I'm thinking I've got it here, and he's just given up and is going to let me pass. And he comes back at me, and since he has the inside here, I'm going to let him have it. He came pretty close to forcing me off the track there, and I'm not going to try and make it happen. I know that I'm faster than him. I'll get him in a couple corners. And that's kind of the thing here. If I was racing in the Southeast, I know just about everybody that races with the Southeast. I trust that they're not going to, pinch me on a corner or something like that. I don't know most of the people that race in the Mid-South and don't have a lot of trust. So I'll get the pass done. It's not worth bending the car. I don't quite have enough speed going down the straight here to try to make it work into one. You see, I was thinking about it, but it just wasn't going to quite do it. I see him take the inside line here, so I'm going to go wide and hopefully get a better run out of 3 than he does. And it seems like I do. I'm right up behind his bumper. So regardless what happens here, I'm going to go try to take this corner. Brake a little bit later than he does, and I'm able to get it done. I see this pack of cars in front of me, and that's my next target. There's 3 Miatas and a 944. The 944 probably did his best to get out of the way, but inevitably, out-of-class cars always hold you up if they're slower than you are, even if they're not trying to. So I know I've got a good chance of trying to catch this pack, because they're all passing each other and going side by side, and just a good chance for me to try and close the gap a little bit. So this was kind of a dicey part of the track all weekend long, because everybody did something different here. They'd brake in the compression zone, they'd brake going uphill. It was a little bit weird. And I didn't even expect this. He takes the inside line, and I just kind of motor past you. You sort of can get tunnel vision a little bit with the person in front of you, not try to lose touch, and then the person behind you just will go around you. I also see out-of-class E30s coming up behind me, and they're a much faster car. They have higher horsepower, higher torque than us. So I'm going to try to let this, the Lear, go through on the inside and hope that he catches them by the hairpin and, screws up their race a little bit. I'm just going to try to follow him through, which I think this white and blue car was focusing a little bit too much on the E30 and not aware that I was going to come through on the inside there and pretty handily get that pass done. So again, second and third in the E30 race are coming up behind me, so I'm trying to plan when they're going to get past me. And I get a better run out of Museum than this guy does, and I'm going to try to go side by side and hope that he doesn't want to, and it turns out he doesn't. He doesn't want to go 3 wide either with that E30, which that does mean I kind of mess up this E30's race, but you see in a little bit. The leader doesn't walk away too much, and I make sure they get by me with no problems. So they tell you in HPDE before you get your race license, point people by, point people by. I still point people by in races, especially out of class cars, because you don't want to screw up anybody else's race. And you hope, you know, in the grand scheme of the universe, that if you do that for other people won't screw up your race. Doesn't always happen that way, but it's where I like to believe anyway. So now that these E30s are in front of me, they don't really run away all that much. Or at least the guy in third place doesn't. So at this point, I think I'm up to 9th. And I'm not sure if I'm going to see anybody in front of me. If they've had a clean race and they haven't been fighting a lot, they will have, you know, gapped me substantially as I was trying to get past the cars that are now behind me. So I'm just trying to run a clean rest of the race, and if I get lucky, I will happen upon somebody else in front of me. Does seem like I'm reeling him in a little bit, though. So of course I get a little bit ahead of myself in trying to try different lines. I brake a little bit too much, slide the car, and get rewarded with by a trip through the gravel. Luckily the cars behind me are so far out of sight that I'm not really worried about losing positions. It's just I lost touch with the group in front of me, and now there's very unlikely that I'll see anybody else. Now I just decide to go visor open. It's just so hot this day. I'm, you know, sweating under my helmet. It was so bad. I had issues climbing out of the car and actually had to go lay down. It wasn't like a hydration thing. It was just exhausting. This is a 35-minute race in July in Birmingham. So it was just very, very hot. Again, this 944, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to, you know, go side by side with him through the chicane or not, and I don't really want to force it, and he doesn't seem to be into it either, but he does lift and let me by. So this is lap traffic. This is not a pass for position here. Again, it's always nice, you know, if you're not in somebody else's race, just let them pass you. There's no reason to try to fight for position through there. And here's the white flag come out. Last lap of the race. coming up on the checkered flag here. Not a great drive for me. Started 5th, dropped down to 14th, made it back up to 9th. It was an okay recovery drive. I had some decent passes, and I feel pretty good about it. This is the first time racing this car, so not all that bad. Stay tuned for part 2 with race 2 and 3.